In this video, I just wanted to talk a bit about the NFL and the run and shoot and the history of this because a lot of people seem to think that the zone blitz killed the run and shoot because it messed up the blocking assignments, especially for the running back. And this caused all kinds of confusion with the blocking and killed the run and shoot in the NFL. And But supposedly it didn't do that in college because Hawaii's been basically running the run and shoot for decades now. But that's not actually true. You see, the run and shoot is a really good offense. Really good. What actually killed it was the salary cap. I'm going to show that to you. It's not practical to use the run and shoot in a salary cap league. When the run and shoot was actually going along and doing well was before the salary cap, when you had the Oilers, really good run and shoot with Warren Moon there, and the Bills were running the run and shoot in the early 90s, going to 4 straight Super Bowls. The Lions were doing it at that time, and then the Falcons were picking it up and doing it like in the mid 90s and what have you. But I'm going to show you something here. This is Madden. This is not even how big the contracts actually are. There's bigger ones now. You look at CD Lamb's contract, Amon Ra's contract there, and these receiver contracts are massive, right? So when a run and shoot, what are you basically removing? Let's go over here to a tight end. You're not using a tight end, right? But you can see here, at least the tight ends, their contracts are a little bit cheaper, right? So you're replacing a tight end with a receiver, and look how much more they're going to make if they're good. You're also not using a fullback. The highest paid one, pretty cheap compared to receivers, right? You're getting paid that $5 million. Top fullback, you're not using a fullback. Top receiver, $30 million, right? And you're focusing around these receivers that make a lot more than the positions that you're not using. So if you didn't use the run and shoot, you brought in a tight end, you can save 10 million on one of those positions. If you started using a fullback and only 2 receivers and a tight end, you could save 25 million. Not to mention, you look at these running backs, they're much cheaper. Even the top ones here. I know there's some other contracts here that aren't posted up here, but this is even cheaper than using receivers. And you can argue that a running back is more important because a running back, even on a pass play that they're not even going out for a route on, is going to be in for pass protection, and they're going to pick up a possible blitz or a rusher who beat the block. He's going to be there to pick it up, that slack there. So he's getting engaged there. On a pass play, he might go out for a route and even catch the pass, right? But on top of that, he's also running the ball, and he is taking more hits and doing more for the team and taking more onto his body than the receivers, yet they get paid less. They're workhorses. It's definitely not fair here. On top of this, the quarterbacks. You want a top quarterback. Murray's not even at the top here. Look at that. 50 million, right? But if you come down here and you say, you know what? We're not going to use a run and shoot. We're going to focus more on running the ball so the quarterback doesn't have to do as much for the team. You use a Jared Goff, for example. You save half of that. Or with a Geno Smith, a Kirk Cousins there. You save a boatload on that. Uh, some of these people, I wouldn't say are all too good, and there are a lot of these ones that I'm showing here on rookie contracts. So there's not a lot of good examples here. But just trying to see if I can find a good starter that's not on a rookie contract. It looks like that's about it. Right? You can go a little bit cheaper building your team if you don't use a run and shoot style, because you can use a quarterback that is the whole offense isn't relying on him, right? Where maybe it's more focused on a running back who is taking on some of that salary, and then you're not using those receivers. You got a fullback in there doing his thing and a tight end doing their thing, and you're paying the offense less money, right? Which means you can get more depth on the offense. You can also use some of that money for the defense and special teams, right? So I would argue that it was actually the salary cap that killed the run and shoot, because it was an offense that was just amazing. You especially focused on the early 90s with the Bills and the Oilers. Fantastic stuff right there, right? And though they didn't win the Super Bowl, and you can talk about why that didn't happen, but it brought the Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls. But yeah, I believe it's salary cap, and I believe the NFL went to a salary cap, they say, for competition purposes. But I think there's actually a lot more to that. You know, it was to keep teams afloat that weren't really all that good, that could go bankrupt. You know, in the early NFL, there's a lot of teams that happened. They had to either lose the team, move to try to draw some fan attention, and yeah, like if the league had a salary cap right now, there would be some big issues, because what you would end up having is teams like the Titans, the Jaguars, the Cardinals, that they wouldn't really have enough, maybe at times, to pay for high draft picks. So those teams would either be really crappy teams year in and year out, so it's hard to build up a fan base when all they do is lose, or they would just go out and have to no longer run the operation. So the NFL is this supposed competition. They're against that. As you can see, for an example, with the Eagles, they see a team that has used loopholes with this whole salary cap, where they use void years, where they're able to push some of the contract past the contract of the player, where the player may be contracted for 4, 5, 6 years or something, but some of that money they will receive will be in year 7, 8, 9, when they're not even under the contract playing for the team anymore. It's these void years, so they can push some of that salary down the line when there's more of a shared salary cap. That because it keeps increasing year in and year out, and since they have been able to build a super team, the NFL this year, for example, went twice to try to ban what they call the brotherly shove there, the push tush, or the tush push, I mean. But they didn't get their way on that. So then they're trying to do away with the contracts and void years, right? So they're intentionally going after the Eagles, even though it's supposed to be competition, yet they want to do away with a play that everybody can do, and no one's getting hurt on it. There's no reason for them to be banning the play. No reason, right? And going after void years, again, is something other teams can do. They can do the same thing. But since the Eagles are doing it and they're good at it, they want to take out the competition instead of competing and learning from them. Instead, they they just want to take out that competition. It's the same thing that was going on in the 90s when the Cowboys were really good. The salary cap kind of ruined that because they had a really good team. Because there wasn't a salary cap, Jerry Jones was able to put money into that and buy the best players when they went to free agency, picking up like Charles Haley and Deion Sanders, for example. And this made it where they could really dominate, right? Uh, but yeah, but at least that's some competition, right? You have the Major League Baseball, for example. They don't have a salary cap, but they're still competitive, and there's teams every year that are not spending a whole lot of money that are competitive and even win and beat teams that have a high salary cap and spend a whole lot more than they do. So, yeah, I think the system can still work without the salary cap, and I think the salary cap has really done something to destroy competition, in my opinion. Not only that's what I believe caused uh, the run and shoot to die was the salary cap, but also true competition. I think the NFL, they compete, but it's more showmanship because they're trying to make it where everybody has a chance, and since everybody has a chance and it's a more of a level playing field, they can rig things more with different tactics so that they can make money off of Vegas and the betting and all that stuff. So there's more money to be made there, not just by bringing in fans to the games and on television, but also through betting and other such things, which is becoming a bigger thing now. And when you have a team that's a dominant, like that's a juggernaut team like that, what the Eagles have put together, that's almost a sure thing. It almost becomes a sure thing because the other teams can't match up. Because not only do the Eagles have better talent, but then with the coaching and all this stuff, the team coming together, it's very tough to beat if you can beat it at all, right? And it makes it harder to rig scores at the first, second, third, fourth quarter to get into the betting, right? And into who wins and who loses, right? So yeah, I think the salary cap not only has done that, but it also has ruined teams. It really has. I mean, it comes down to the players, right? If they're willing to go to a crappy team to make more money, it's kind of on them, not just on the teams. But you got like a crappy team with not a big fan base can spend a whole lot of money to bring somebody in or a bunch of people in, and they they destroyed other teams that actually drafted those players or they were undrafted players and they trained them. They coached them, and once they get their team built up and they've coached a lot of good players, they can't afford to keep them all because of the salary cap. Well, they have to let them go or trade them to other teams. And that has destroyed a lot of teams. Like I mentioned, like the Cowboy dynasty, a lot of that had to do with the whole salary cap. That's why the big part of that, why that fell apart. Uh, Same thing, the Niners fell apart right at that same time too. The Oilers, they fell apart, right? A lot of these teams fell apart that were really dominant, doing really good once the salary cap hit. You had like the Oilers, the Bills, the Cowboys, the Niners, really good teams. The 93 Oilers are considered one of the most talented teams ever, at least ever not to win the big game there. And it all fell apart because of the the salary cap. If they didn't bring the salary cap in, those teams could have stayed doing well longer. And who knows how things would have been different. But it is what it is. Nothing you can do about it. We don't have a say in it. We don't have a control in it. And if your team is like the Cowboys, you got a lot of money, you bring in a lot of money, you would love for there not to be a salary cap. But if you're a team like the Jaguars or the Titans, you probably don't want there to be a salary cap because it'd just be bad, right? But if you brought in good coaches that wanted to show that they got the ability to coach, they could go to those teams and turn things around and really develop players, but they would end up being a farm team for the teams that have more money and are willing to spend it. But yeah, I'm done ranting on that. It's a video about football. It's about the run and shoot. It's about the gaming stuff. But it's more just ranting. But all in all, it's just, for fun. It's just for entertainment, and it's basically just a distraction as there's bigger things going on in the world, right? And you never know when your time's up, so you might want to take the time now to get right with God if you haven't, because today could be that day. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.